Welcome to the 21st episode of Vital Questions. As always, I'm your host, Che Guerrero with
La co-host.
La Co-host. How are you, La Co-host?
I'm trekking along. That's usually what I tell people when everything's falling apart, and we're just getting back. We're just doing the thing. That's what we're doing, the thing.
It's funny. Whenever I ask you, like, I always think of whenever as a stand-up comedian, you ask an audience, like, how you guys feeling tonight? And before, like, all this, it was kind of like a generic, like, yeah. But now I'm like, how are I need to know how each and every one of you is feeling tonight.
That's what you should do the next show. Like, just be like, okay, we're gonna do a mini therapy session, everyone. Exactly we're gonna be together and figure it out.
And that's what we're doing right now. We're together trying to figure out, if you've already read the title, nice segue, how weak is the state of the Democratic Party? Now, maybe I should start by saying this, and like a host, you can add. This isn't in support or in like against the Democratic Party. You know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we do support members of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
But their overarching message and what they essentially feel like what their end goal is not always aligned with what I want or what you want.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's the right way to put it, that we support certain representatives of the Democratic Party.
Zohran Mamdani.
Right, of course.
Jasmine Crockett.
Of course.
AOC, top three starting.
Right. For various different reasons, right? But yeah, there's part of the issue in terms of, again, to your point, if you've read the title, how weak is the state of the Democratic Party of today's episode, part of the issue is the establishment, right? Part of the issue is what people refer to as are the established Democrats, people that have been in office for a while, whether through nepotism, whether through, I don't know, kissing the right ass, who knows?
Through funding from super PACs that are not aligned with us, one of the major points of it.
Exactly. And you have people who, again, will say one thing when the camera's on, but then will vote differently, which is why we try to emphasize the importance of looking up how people are voting when elections come around. Because just because someone says they're a Democrat or even that they support XYZ, at the end of the day, actions matter, not words, right? Yeah. And we've all been there, right? That's what I tell my girlfriends all the time. What matters is words, not actions. What matters is actions, not words.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's early. We're recording this at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday.
Yeah.
After being up all night from neighbors.
We're here. All right. But
so this episode is more to talk about the party as an opposition to
what's happening.
Fascism, MAGA Republicans.
Right.
And, as I've told you this before, like as a student of history, one of the biggest things, and we bring this up during before Nazi, the Nazi regime fully came into power.
Yeah,
one of the biggest issues was a weak opposition to Nazism,
right?
Unable to get the public's trust that they could lead the country out of what was, or the state that it is.
Yeah,
and I'm afraid that I'm seeing that same thing from the Democratic Party today.
Yeah.
Of a party that is not able to be the opposition to fascism.
Yeah,
and that's what we're trying to see, what's going on and where they're at.
Right. And I mean, ironically, the examples we're going to go through in terms of showing the state of the Democratic Party today is going through examples of people who are actually doing things, right? Like, these members of the Democratic Party are actually trying to take a stand. And today's episode is twofold. It's partly to show people there are people that are trying.
Yes.
Right. But they unfortunately don't have the numbers, whether it's because Republicans, just have a majority kind of across the board, or whether because of the established Democrats that say one thing but vote differently. Right. Like, whatever lens you want to look at it through. But part of it is not having the numbers. Right. And that's also why we see the Republican Party getting away with a lot of what they're getting away with, because they just don't have, Democrats just don't have the numbers in terms of support. The irony, though, is that they do have the numbers in terms of people support. If we actually took real polls, and if people weren't afraid to mess up their everyday lives and by taking a stance and all of that, like a lot of the stuff that we talk about, that unfortunately is human nature and we understand. They realistically probably do have the people, right? Like, civilian support if we needed it come day one, right?
I think we talked about this, that should the election, I think, be reheld today, I think it'd be a very different
It'd be a
outcome.
landslide.
Yeah.
And you already see it. If, for everyone listening, start looking into the election results across the nation so far. There's been a bunch of different special elections where Democrats are winning, and it is a sign of the times.
Yeah.
And it's funny, actually, for today's episode, I had a whole different introduction. Originally, it was going to kind of preview, hey, we've already seen how this administration is treating protesters, how
Mhm.
it's treating civilians when we're just trying to stand up for our rights, stand up for what's legal and
Mhm.
not legal, right? Um, but then yesterday we see this, right?
Mhm.
Where apparently Trump canceled Kamala Harris's Secret Service detail,
Mhm.
which was originally extended by Biden under an order that it seems like a lot of people didn't know about. Which, we can talk about why he did this, but undercover, whatever. It really wasn't. From what it seems like, he was just trying to help out his VP and make sure she was safe.
Yeah.
So realistically, I didn't know this, and we didn't know this until yesterday, that for vice president, their security detail is only for 6 months.
Yeah.
It turns out Biden extended her detail for an additional year
Mhm.
under an executive order until July of next year.
Yeah.
So but again, it's very telling that what's it called, that Trump did this, considering that she's about to start her book tour for her memoir that she's coming out with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she has, if you haven't heard, she has a book coming out called 107 Days, and it's actually talking about she had 100. It was her presidency
Yeah,
election.
from
Yeah,
being told, "Hey, you're gonna be
yeah,
the candidate to election night," she only had 107 days to get it done.
correct.
One of the
So
shortest campaigns, well,
I
the
think
shortest campaign
ever,
in
yeah,
US history.
yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of talking about the inside of that, and then we also saw a interview where she was speaking about not necessarily wanting to go back into politics right away, but essentially what she's trying to do as part of this book tour is also to gauge where we're at in terms of our citizenry,
Yeah.
right? Like how everyone's feeling, what are the concerns? I'm sure there's a lot of
Yeah.
them, right? Like, so she's just kind of trying to be there for people,
Mhm.
hear them out, strategize, and kind of take it from there through this book tour.
Yeah.
At least that's my understanding.
And sorry, I'll let you go ahead, finish with the book tour, because then, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but I didn't even think about that, right? When we spoke about this yesterday, just us two, we were like, "This is ridiculous," right? It's also the first, female Black woman vice president that
First
not
female vice
well, female vice
president.
president, right? But also when you
First black,
add on
yeah, all that
when
stuff.
you add on all the layers of unfortunate hatred that she's been getting throughout her career,
Mhm.
it was already part of that article was, kinda talking about the dangers that she was already experiencing, right? She constantly was getting death threats, and not only for being a woman, but for also being Black and then also being VP, right? Like, how dare you? That's the
Yeah.
mentality of, unfortunately, a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
So then my guess is that's probably why Biden went ahead and, hey, was like, "Hey, I care about you as a person.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure that to the extent that I have the power to protect you." I don't think that that's really controversial. I don't think that that's a huge deal in terms of the way certain media platforms are trying to talk about this.
What,
But
that Biden gave her an extension was something nefarious or something like
yeah,
that?
because it wasn't disclosed or whatever. And I'm like, that's
W I'm sorry, but Biden knew who was coming into office.
exactly.
All of these sort of pardons for certain people, like he pardoned his son. Why? So Trump couldn't weaponize his past
Mhm.
misgivings. Now, do I agree that that Hunter Biden should have been in jail? Yeah, they should have gotten a pardon. No.
Mhm.
However, knowing what was coming, giving Hunter Biden a pardon now doesn't seem ridiculous because look at what Trump is going after for
Exactly.
everyone.
Right.
So Trump was going to come in and go after his adversaries, meaning one of them would be the woman who just ran against him.
Right.
So for Biden to extend her, which I don't know if other VPs have had their
Yeah,
detail
I'm not sure.
extended, but this was deliberate.
And it
And
also
it's,
doesn't seem that controversial. Like, if given the circumstances, it's just not. And but again, it goes to a lot of people are calling Trump petty for doing this, which of
yeah.
course he is. Um,
And I didn't know she was about to start a book tour.
mhm,
So him doing this as she's about to go around the country,
mhm.
probably to some unsettling places to also try and,
Yeah,
talk about the book and try and bridge people together the way she's been trying to do.
right.
This is going, this is dangerous. And I think he knows look, I don't want to speculate here because, I don't want to get anybody at Vital Questions in trouble, but the timing is very
It's
odd.
interesting.
It's interesting. Let's leave it there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my favorite word to say.
it's
Everything is very
interesting.
real interesting, and I hope everyone else is interested in what's happening.
That's not the one. I'm
Oh,
trying
what
to
is it?
zoom in to be
Oh,
like
oh, there you go. Okay.
interesting.
We need to figure out how to do graphics.
Yeah. Okay. For the people.
Yeah, exactly. Make it interesting.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
But yeah, so what I will share is that in case you haven't heard, right? Like, Trump has taken over DC. So looking at a PBS News article really quick, just the title: National Guard troops in Washington are now carrying firearms, including handguns and rifles, per the president's direction. And then the irony is that, as we all know, I think hopefully at this point,
Hmm.
that the federal takeover of DC is on the basis of supposed crime, right? Supposedly
Mhm.
there's a crime crisis. There's really not, right? When you look at this now, Washington Post article dated August 27th, title is National Guard troops deployed in DC add sanitation and landscaping duties. There is no crime crisis. It really just like the amount of time and money being wasted in all this crap is actually really ridiculous. But again, it's yes, we have Democratic leaders that are trying to speak out against it.
Yeah.
But this is again on a smaller scale. We'll get into the details of other examples, bigger scales.
Mhm.
But on a more minutia level of even the deployment of National Guards, it's very clear that this is BS. That not only in DC, what happened in LA, it was all
Mhm.
BS,
Yeah.
and we all know it, and we
Yeah.
all see it. Yet the Democrats don't have enough numbers or power or ability appears to stop this.
And I I kind of also want to I know I didn't tell you about this, and I'm sorry to throw you a
You
monkey
always do
wrench,
this.
but a lot of the mechanisms that are in government that allow someone like Trump to do this cannot be dismissed are racist.
Mhm,
Like the fact that DC has never had representation in Congress is
mhm,
racist because they've always been a majority minority city, a black city.
mhm.
Okay, you think of DC as like the president, da, 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 but everybody else around them is mostly black, and then other people of color, Latinos, Asian, everything. A lot of the fact that again Trump could just come in, essentially depose the mayor. The mayor has not been deposed, but I'm saying that he has taken over DC, and he's even thinking about getting rid of the mayor.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like the fact that these laws allow Trump to go into DC. Hell, the fact that people are okay with him like blatantly breaking the laws is racist because he's mostly only going essentially or using people of color, black and Latinos to
Mhm.
scapegoat and then to go after these cities. And everybody's okay with it because at the end of the day, this is all about racism.
Well, to your point, it's not only Black and Latino, civilians, for lack of a better
Yeah,
phrase, it's also our representatives. We're
exactly.
gonna go into
Yeah.
examples of a lot of the targets of the just not only disrespect, right? We'll go into examples of just disrespect, right?
Mhm.
Like, for example, not respecting your local governor's authority over the National Guard. That's just blatant
Yeah.
disrespect, right? For over Democratic representatives. But when we go into the details, you see that it's also blatant violence.
Yeah.
Right, and it's this party has shown their violence off the rip.
Yeah.
Um
I need the Democrats in part to realize you are now a marginalized group.
Mhm.
Like you are now a minority marginalized group. Doesn't matter if you're,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
that you are essentially one of us now.
Right, and the
And
concept
that's what
of
we're
a
afraid of.
before, I think when this administration started, everyone understood they were a political minority, right?
Yeah.
You unfortunately don't have the votes, you don't have the numbers for certain things. Now, to your point, you're a minority in the marginalized sense,
Yes.
where and again, throughout American history, we've seen how marginalized groups have been treated in this country, unfortunately.
Hmm.
So this is a warning to the Democrats, like, please be careful literally for yourselves because
Yeah.
we're gonna go through all the different examples, and candidly, when I gathered all this together, I knew of these different stories, but when you see it also in chronological order, it's all just really scary because it's
Yeah.
been the progression of violence and aggression and all that stuff.
We know that the day to day has changed for us. I don't think Republicans know it.
No, right.
I mean, Democrats, excuse me.
Well, no, but also
Republicans know.
Republic
Also, You know what?
no,
You're right.
there
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people that just are
Hmm.
so focused on, "Oh, well, he's fulfilling certain promises, so that's what matters." And it's like, you don't see the damage that's coming from these promises, that's fine, that's on you,
Hmm.
but eventually it'll come to play.
Yeah.
So turning to the first sign of violence, right? And, it is January 6th, right?
We're
Just
gonna start with J6.
starting from the beginning.
Sorry for the beginning.
As a friendly reminder, since, again, J6 has been warped throughout the time since then,
Hmm.
let's go back to what actually happened, right? So we're going to play footage that was shown during the first January 6th committee hearing when they kind of were discussing what was happening. And then eventually that's when they pressed charges against the rioters and all that stuff.
Insurrectionists.
Insurrectionists, yeah.
Let's call them what they are.
So we'll play from this is NBC News. And again, just going back to that J6 committee hearing.
Mhm.
Capital injury! Multiple capital injury!
Okay, guys. Apparently, This tip of the spear has entered the Capitol building.
I think that's before there.
Well, then there's also
Oh, the police with the police exchange.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for those who are just listening, what
Yeah.
we're now watching is the moment where I had his name here. Sorry. Yeah, it was the moment where
Members of
Eugene.
militia.
No, it was Eugene Goodman. Yeah, I also
Okay.
wanted to give him where Eugene Goodman, who was a U.S. Capitol Police, was chased by rioters or nope, by insurrectionists through the Capitol building, and again, he was basically by himself, as we're seeing from this footage.
Yeah.
Where the fuck are they? Crucial testing has failed.
Okay.
Yeah. You heard that real quick at the end. Where the fuck are they?
Yeah.
You know who they're looking for.
So yeah. So what was interesting is that again, we haven't seen this in a while, and admittedly, it was also kind of hard to find footage. And what's been interesting through doing this podcast, as time has gone on, and I'll just give the warning to everybody, it is getting progressively harder to find information and footage that is aligned with recent events, right? I don't need anyone, realistically, I don't need the internet to confirm to me that J6 happened. I saw it with my own eyes. Obviously, for the purpose of the show, I want to share footage and just remind everyone, hey, this actually happened. And for as much as certain people on the Republican side tried to claim that, oh, what was it? What did he say?
It was a picnic. They were
It was a
walking
picnic.
through.
It was
a day of
party.
love and peace and
yeah.
And this is why we're showing you J6. And I'm not sure if we already leave this out. Is because this is the beginning of the Republicans' violence towards Democrats.
Correct.
When they were there, where is everyone? They were looking for Nancy Pelosi specifically, Speaker of the House at the time, I believe. They were looking for Chuck Schumer. Okay. They were looking for Josh Hawley and all the Republicans. Yeah, they were running, away or whatever, but they weren't looking for them. I believe a lot of Republicans gave them tours of how to get in there before it even happened. So the fact that this is where Democrats, an insurrection happened. Then they had the presidency, the House, all that stuff, and did nothing with it to actually, yes, okay, a lot of rioters, a lot of insurrectionists went to prison. Eventually, Trump pardoned them, fine. But I'm talking about protecting yourself as a party and saying, you cannot do this to us because you lost an election.
Right.
You cannot send a mob after us because you don't like the results.
Right.
But they let him get away with that.
Right.
That violence against them was the point where Democrats said to Trump and Republicans, you could do whatever you want to us, and we're going to try and hold you content in a court of law, even though you try to murder us. And at the end of the day, nothing was really done to stop your ideology.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to numbers, unfortunately. And by numbers, I also mean numbers of Democrats that are actually willing to do something.
Yeah.
Because I think that if the establishment and everyone else who is funded by God knows what, banded together with progressives or however we want to label people that are actually doing something, if everyone actually got together on the Democratic Party, at least that shows Democrats that there is a cohesive plan, that there is a cohesive team, and that we can get behind them. Because at this point, it is left versus right. It's a blatant, you have to pick a side. And yeah, you can't be picking the left side and acting like, oh yeah, I'm a Democrat, and being funded by the people that your constituents are adamantly against. That's just not how that works. That's not realistic.
Yeah.
So on the point of what's interesting about all of this, right, is that it was one of the first signs that we saw of the Republican Party being blatantly attacking also law enforcement.
Yeah.
Right. Capitol Police were also. And again, this is the party of Blue Lives Matter and let's respect our troops and our police. Okay, y'all did not care at all in the slightest about that when it was January 6th. What happened?
I'm sorry. I'm just starting to realize, are people traumatized by J6 and seeing like what they are capable of? Has that been sort of like I don't know. I guess people like a little bit of a shock collar around people's neck that we know Republicans are violent and they showed us on January 6th. And the fact that we haven't gone after them in that way, that seems like a shocking, like a shock collar to not move.
Yeah, I mean, and it may be, I haven't heard any discourse about that, but it is interesting. I found another video of another Capitol Police member or former Capitol Police that was there on J6.
Mhm.
His name is Harry Dunn, and he's talking about the difference in the January 6th response by the powers that be versus what was happening in LA,
Okay.
right? So just to share here,
Mhm.
we'll go ahead and quickly play this. So this is a video of Harry Dunn's former Capitol Police that was at January 6th speaking about his experience and then also comparing it to what has been happening and still happening in LA.
Former U.S. Capitol Police officer Harry Dunn, who helped fight back the mob on January 6th, asks if there's a double standard playing out.
You spent a lot of years as a police officer. You saw the FBI director post on social media, you hit a cop, you go to jail.
As it should be. As it should be. But effective when? Or only applies to who? That needs an asterisk next to it.
In a social media post Monday, California's governor blasted the president's pardons of the 1,500 plus Capitol riot defendants.
I'll pause there just because it goes on and all of it is great content, but just for time purposes. But yeah, it's something that people have talked about before, but to have former Capitol Police themselves acknowledge this is really important.
Yeah.
And, you know, to his credit, he acknowledges, right? If you assault an officer without need and all that stuff, for sure. And that's exactly what J6 was. It was just an all-out assault, not only on the Capitol Police, but also on an entire democracy.
Yeah. And, you know, I have talked about this before, how, and again, I always feel like I'm throwing us off the rails, but, you know, I don't respect cops and judges because their power is given to them to abuse people of color, but they do not have the power to go after or abuse rich, powerful people the way they do us. Like I've said this example before. If you are a black man who steals a book, are suspected of stealing a book bag, never stole said book bag, you spend 2.5 years in Rikers and they break you to the point where you kill yourself. If you are a president with 34 felony convictions that is shredding up the Constitution and judge after judge is issuing orders saying you are violating the Constitution, you are doing everything wrong, stop what you're doing, they can't send anybody to pick them up.
Right.
You have the power to terrorize people of color as a judge and a cop, but you have no authority to actually go after the people who are hurting this country every day. Billionaires, all those politicians that are actually breaking the Constitution. We asked them to stop.
Well, it's all, I mean, I hear you, and yes, you're right, but it is all tied to the many things that we talk about all the time, right? Like, we can go down the rabbit hole of it's capitalism, right? Because these people are powerful because they have money and influence. Influence and power usually comes from money when you live in a capitalist society, and that is unfortunately why, right? Like and that's why sometimes when we're lucky, sometimes they screw over the wrong Latino or Black person or minority person, and that person actually does know what they're talking about and actually does have the ability to go and retaliate against them, rightfully so, right? So whether that's a lawsuit, whatever it is, and it's always very satisfying for me whenever I see that. But yeah, it is, a lot of it does come down to, unfortunately, power and influence. And people do, as a lawyer, I can tell you from experience, the whole you know, your ability to go after someone and all that, you tend to weigh risks. That's our entire job, right? We weigh risk. And what is the risk of going after this person? Although I rightfully should, and they deserve retribution for whatever it is that they did, but whether or not that's realistically going to pan out, right? That's also the conversation that judges and police officers and lawyers kind of come to, of if I pursue this person, if I actually sue them or whatever, are they just going to get some really great lawyer that I know that they have on retainer to somehow wipe away all of this and somehow figure out a loophole? And then there's that. Okay, then am I putting my career on the line also? What kind of influence does this person have? Who do they know? I know it's terrible, but that is the truth of it, right? Like, that's just the nature of the world or the country that we live in specifically. When you live in a capitalist society, money is first and foremost, and whoever has that money, they rule everything. That's it. Putting it very, very simply. Of course, there's nuance in all of it, but that's kind of what it comes down to.
You are proving my, you are proving my point is that they go after the people who are not going to retaliate. You know, it's like and I hate to say this analogy, and we'll probably have to cut this. Like somebody like hitting a kid and being like, oh, what are they going to do? They're going to do not retaliate me, but you won't fight somebody your own size. Right? You know what I mean? Somebody who might be stronger and you can actually whoop your ass.
Well, that's part of it.
That's what it is. You going after the kid who can't defend himself.
But that's also why I tell people that, you know, the whole knowledge is power phrase, it's true. It's, if you don't know your rights and you don't know how to enforce them, that you're already starting out at deficit. And the flip side of that is also if you don't have the funds to be able to defend your rights.
Yeah.
Because then that means paying lawyers and
Right.
paying these things, right? So like,
But Democrats do have the power and the thing, and it's not. You know what I'm saying. The power influence at a certain point ain't helping you anymore because look at what's happening now.
well, then that goes into the cohesiveness of the party.
Yeah.
Right. That goes into the lack of cohesiveness and the
Mhm.
fact that the establishment is more right wing than I think a lot of people like to accept.
Mhm.
But again, we're going down the rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
nothing to do with
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
So turning to another example of this is kind of veiled violence, but violence nonetheless is what was happening early in the year in terms of pizza doxings.
Mhm.
So I always struggle with this word
Pizza
doxings.
doxing.
So doxing as a concept by itself. If you don't know, right, it's just the general idea that you put the person's contact information out there, right? Like their
Yeah.
name, what they've done, quote
Yeah,
unquote.
yeah.
And
I mean, it might be already available. Like for some, some people might they already have a business out there or
Mhm.
whatever. But this is specifically putting the information on there for the purpose of harassment and intimidation.
Right, exactly. So pizza doxings, as it shows up here on CBS News, this article that we're pulling up, uh, pizza doxings are a spin on doxing, in which somebody's address or other personal information is maliciously made public, often as a form of intimidation.
We've talked about pizza doxing before
We
on the episode on the show.
Yeah. But we talked about it focusing on Alvaro, who's a friend
Mhm.
of the show.
Mhm.
And he, unfortunately, Alvaro Bedoya is a former FTC commissioner who was fired by the Trump administration earlier this year. And on the night that he was fired, he also received a pizza delivery. Now,
Mhm.
these pizza doxing comes through pizza deliveries. Essentially, what was happening to Alvaro and the federal judges kind of across the country
Mhm.
earlier this year in, I believe, Alvaro was March. So it was like kind of March, April, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Were that different judges, for judges at least, they were getting pizza deliveries sent to their homes, and it was addressed to Daniel Alder, who's the late son of U.S. District Judge Esther Salas in
Mhm.
New Jersey. So, and her son Daniel was unfortunately killed by a gunman in front of their home. So, by
Mm.
referencing the deceased son of a judge, who this was a very big case and very well profiled, it was again a veiled threat, but essentially threatening to kill someone, right?
Yeah.
Like you're referencing the son of a judge who you know was murdered for malicious reasons,
Mhm.
and this was happening to judges across, not across, judges across the country,
Mhm.
but primarily people who somehow either ruled against this administration or somehow against
Oh,
right wing
okay. Yeah, yeah,
ideologies.
yeah, yeah. Well, I knew about Alvaro, but I didn't know that she was threatened and her son, all this stuff because of.
No. So, Judge Salas, that case was different. That was kind of like the start of it.
Yeah.
That was specific to Judge Salas, right? So,
Okay.
unfortunately, I believe, if memory serves, it was someone who was upset about a ruling she made. It was a very specific case, right?
Right.
And they retaliated and, unfortunately, unalived her son.
Yeah.
But what people did is use that case of a person targeting a judge
Mhm.
to deliver pizzas to other federal judges who had ruled against either this administration or against certain right-wing
Under the
ideologies.
son's name to say.
Correct. To the
uh,
recipient being Daniel, whatever,
yeah.
i.e., hey, I'm sending this to a dead person because you're next.
Yeah. So this is again now judges are being threatened
Exactly.
by members of the right wing parties to say, look what we can do to you.
Right.
So okay, J6 going
Mhm.
after Democrats, and then now you're
Now
going
you're going after, right, you're going after
scaring judges,
federal judges.
federal judges,
And-
federal judges.
Like FTC commission
Yeah.
and people part of federal agencies
Yes.
that have gone against right-wing
Wow, you're painting a
ideologies.
much insidious picture than I
Yeah.
had seen what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And continuing on with the terribleness that is a lot of what we're seeing in this country, we are going to go into what happened on June 14th in Minnesota. But before we do, we did want to acknowledge the tragic shootings that happened just 3 days ago in Minnesota, August 27th, at the Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis, where 2 children, 8 and 10 years old, were killed and 17 others were injured. And again, just a couple of months earlier, there was this. So this is the picture of Vance Bolter, who tragically killed the state house representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, and also then went to another home and injured Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette, but luckily they survived. So this was just in when was this in June? right? So again, just a
This
couple.
was in June.
Mhm.
You could have told me this was in February.
Yeah, it's just that so much has happened.
Oh my goodness, these people were murdered 2 months ago, and it's just like
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I saw a post earlier today that people just forgot. This was a political assassination that happened
By a Trumper.
by a Trumper. This man, Vance Bolter, was going around disguised as a police officer
With
in a
the leather the fake mask.
in a fake police car, supposedly acting like he was police because he knew that no one would with him if he's again dressed up and suited up like he's supposed to.
Mhm.
And he went and killed a Democratic representative and her husband, and then went to another home. Actually, I think it was inverse. I think first he went to Senator John Hoffman.
They were all state senators, state representatives,
Exactly.
Democrats, that again, these Republicans, these white men
Mhm.
feel that they need to take control, that they
Mhm.
need to take power, that they need to exude. And I remember when this news first broke about the shooter in Minnesota killing the representatives, it was already trying to blame the fact that he was he worked for Tim Walz's office.
Mhm.
No,
They tried
he,
to make that
they
connection.
tried to make that connection. No, the guy was Republican. He talked about Trump. He supported Trump. He talked about he was actually very deep in the church, trying to go to Africa and convert African people into Christianity.
Of course.
And all these things. These are just patterns that continue with these kinds of right wingers, that they are just in the street purposely
Yeah.
to cause fear in Democrats.
Yeah.
So this guy killing people again, he killed Democrats. Yes, he got
Democratic representatives.
Democratic representatives.
It's not, and that's the point, right? Like, it's also to flag for people that it's getting progressively worse. That's where we started out with J6, where it was like a blatant assault on the Capitol and all of that. We've seen how this administration is going against civilians and all of us that are trying to protect our rights. Now we have people from that party. And again, when I say from that party, I don't mean representatives only, I mean just constituents like this guy who was
Yeah.
insane, taking it upon themselves because they feel emboldened to and being able to, because there aren't real repercussions happening for anyone on the right to then go and do this.
Mhm.
Now, luckily, he was arrested and all that, and he's
Yeah.
facing jail, like doing the whole
Yeah.
thing. So great,
And Trump can't pardon him because these are state charges.
right? Well,
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
But it's also very telling, in case no one realized, that Trump didn't even say anything about this. At bare minimum, acknowledge the fact that someone was murdered for political reasons, and it was people on your side. Never, not one peep from the administration, from Trump himself, being like, "This was terrible," all that.
And yes, and I also am pretty pissed off at Democrats
Mhm.
for not making this the story that will not go away.
Mhm.
Hey man, your guy shot elected officials in their home and the dog.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say. That like that there was also a murder about a dog. He
I
had to
mean,
be euthanized, which I know it's not. I'm just a huge animal lover, and that made me sad. I didn't realize there was a dog involved too.
this is a story you probably hadn't heard of, but beginning when Trump first got into office, a guy in Florida was deported because he threw a rock at a bird that was eating he was
Oh,
fishing
you
and it was
told me
eating
about
his
that. Yeah,
feed.
yeah.
And I made a story about that. People in the comments like, well, he hurt a bird. So if you hurt a bird, you got to get deported. Excuse me. This Republican here murdered 2 people, shot 2 others, and killed a dog. And people are like, I mean, what else we going to talk about? Did you guys see that new Cindy Sweeney ad?
Yeah, insane.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I'm so sick and tired of this ideology. Not this ideology, but the sort of world that exists where Republicans are being this snarky, evil, condescending pieces of shit, and we all see it, and they walk around with that smug face,
Mhm.
and then we're all going, no, we cannot hit that smug face, because if we do, then we'll just be as bad as them. Excuse me, they're disrespecting, not even disrespect, they're murdering us in the streets.
Yeah.
And politeness is where we're at. Okay.
Yeah. Moving on to more terrible things that happened this year to our elected officials. Actually, I just realized this should have came first, but sorry about that. Back in May. So again, what we just discussed happened in June, but back in May, 4 Democratic representatives tried to visit Delaney Hall, an immigration detention center in Newark, New Jersey, and to perform an oversight visit. And again, this is within their jurisdiction, right? These are
Mhm.
representatives of that jurisdiction. And performing oversight visits is part of congressional authority.
That's a
If
job.
if you are a representative, you are allowed to go somewhere where you've been told, "Hey, things aren't looking good," or whatever, and you're protecting your constituents.
Yeah.
So sharing a Instagram video of the site visit. So for background, Delaney Hall is operated by GEO Group, a Florida-based private prison. Um, and they actually, of course, also happen to max out donations to Trump's 2024 reelection campaign. Just going to throw that out that the owners of this particular detention center and a couple of other ones happens to also be a big donor to the Republican Party and Trump's campaign. I'm just gonna, again, interesting. It's all real interesting. We're not saying anything. It's just real all interesting.
That is. Give me a moment, because I just realized that.
Let me put the video away.
Give me. Dame un momentico.
We got a lot to get through. I need you.
We're a capitalist society is okay with a business whose motto is imprison humans, donating to a candidate who's like, I want to imprison innocent humans. And they're like, we like that guy because our business model thrives on the bondage of human beings. Even if they're innocent, doesn't matter if they're innocent, we're still making money. Let's donate to these campaigns so we can get more innocent people in prison. Go fuck yourself. Next clip.
Well, I mean, now that we're going down that rabbit hole, hold on. Now we got.
I'm sorry, I always throw a monkey wrench into
No,
like a
it's
whole
fine.
research.
I'm gonna pull up. Sorry for the tech issues here. We're trying different things. So I'm gonna pull up this Rolling Stone article, which I was gonna get to because this is from that Newark incident, right? This is from that site visit. But I did want to because just in case people think I'm just making stuff up. Again, from Rolling Stone. The quote says, almost as soon as Trump retook office, GEO Group inked a 15-year, $1 billion contract to warehouse immigrants at Delaney Hall. And again, it's all interesting. Right? We can just claim and act like there's no connection and all that, but it all comes down often to money when it comes to these politics, right? So for everyone, for the people in the Republican Party, if you happen to be listening to this, question that, right? Question whether or not this administration is actually going after quote unquote criminals, as we've proven time and time and again, that's not true. And whether or not you think that there's a world where this president is actually just self-involved and cares about his own monetary interests and maybe just made a lot of promises to all these different detention center owners and said, hey, this will look really good for both of us if we just start scooping up people off the street. And now, not only do you have people to fill your detention centers, maybe we can have more detention centers, and maybe we can put them to work in the way that we've done for a lot of other people in the prison system in the United States. But again, just speculation, just throwing it out there. You know, it's crazy how if you just think about it, how things just kind of start popping up in your head, right? But
I'm
going
not
back to
interrupt anymore. You keep going.
Going back to the site visit. So looking at a Instagram post from the New York Times. This is back on May 9th, right? We see it here. And we're just going to play here. This is the moment where, sorry, just giving the background, right? So 3 members of Congress representing New Jersey, Democratic representatives, Bonnie Watson-Coleman, Rob Menendez, and LaMonica McIver went to visit. And then they had to wait an hour and a half eventually to be able to get in, right? They were being told, oh, you're not allowed in. Eventually, Newark Mayor Ras Baraka was able to get there. And he was told, oh, you have to wait here. And then a guard let him in, told him, oh, yeah, you can come into this gated area, as we're seeing in the video. And then out of nowhere, apparently 24 officers arrived and confronted him and then arrested him for trespassing. So
the mayor of a black mayor.
A mayor. So let's see how that goes. Let me undo this and let's play.
They're talking about coming back to arrest you.
Well, I'm not on their property. They can't come out in the street and arrest me.
I agree.
If you come out, we're all getting arrested. You let him in! He's the mayor, let him in! You can't arrest him in front of everybody. You're on camera, you're on live TV.
But they did arrest him.
No, record this.
Congresswoman, if she's right in front of you. Congresswoman.
So we'll pause it there. But yeah. So that was again earlier in May when both Mayor Baraka and the representatives were really just trying to see what the hell is happening in these detention centers. And this not only happened here, but in a lot of other detention centers across the country.
Democrats, I think I saw one clip of Maxine Waters
Mhm.
unable to go into a facility. She's wearing sweatpants, like she just got out of her house, but she looks
That doesn't matter.
no, she looks determined. Like she's like, wait, I just heard bad news. Do you need to change?
Oh, like
No, I'm on my way.
Got it. I just
Yeah,
realized.
and but no, but Democrats are being denied access into facilities that they themselves that are in districts that they control, that they run, that they have oversight over.
That
they were oversight.
and they were elected to protect said districts, right? Like these are what the other thing that people need to remember, especially people on the Republican side, whenever they see these types of things happening, and it's like, oh well, this is always the response. It's always, oh well, police officers told them to leave, and the representatives there told them that they couldn't do this. Well, one, they are legally allowed to be there. It is not trespassing. And just because a police officer under the directions of a freaking dictator is saying, hey, you're not allowed to leave here. Yes, when things are falling apart like this, you can't be like, oh, yeah, they didn't follow orders from the officer. This is all illegal. This is all illegal. That officer is telling them incorrect information. They actually are allowed to be there. They actually are supposed to be able to enter. And if you guys had, again, nothing to hide, why the masks? Why were we not allowing people, our representatives, into spaces? Why do you guys keep lying about things? Again, all real interesting that people really need to start paying attention to. So on that case in Newark, unfortunately, Mayor Baraka was arrested, but he was later released, and his charges were dropped. But what's interesting is that new charges have come up for Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. And what I think, based on the research that I've seen, I think the main reason is because she's on what we say the greener side of things, right? She's new in her career. She's only been in Washington, I believe, for less than a year. And again, a Black woman, and again, also younger. She's 38, and she's apparently among the younger people in Congress. So
I did not know that he was still prosecuting her. So he's going after the young Black progressive.
Correct. So initially, she wasn't involved in charge. Like she wasn't part of being arrested or anything. They were told that they were trespassing and had to leave. But essentially, Mayor Baraka took the hit, and for all of this. But then later on, there were new charges that came up against her for supposedly assaulting, impeding, and interfering with a federal officer. And all of this carries a max sentence of 17 years. So she already pleaded not guilty to that. And her lawyers have filed a motion to dismiss the case, but that's still pending. So really, they're just trying to find a target for anything.
Yeah.
And again, going after the youngest of the group, going after a Black woman, going after someone that hasn't been in Washington too long, i.e., what they consider to be an easy target. But she's not. So she's actually had a long-term professional relationship with Mayor Baraka.
Okay.
He was apparently her fifth grade teacher.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So cute. Yeah. So apparently
we need more Black male teachers.
Correct. That's basically what that means. But yeah, so apparently Mayor Baraka was her fifth grade teacher back in the day, and he was a major influence on why she got into politics. And she just sees the blatant, attack that's happening on a lot of our representatives, like we've already discussed. So again, lots of love and hopefully success for Representative McIver, because it seems like she is very much being used as a pawn in all this.
And especially, we're talking about the way Trump is hurting Democrats. Okay, so now I'm realizing that there's two different things going on. There's Trump supporters who will attack all Democrats. Like I'll go after white ones and whatever. But then Trump himself is doing some of the most egregious things to Democratic leaders that are people of color.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Again, and sorry to interrupt you, it just fits the narrative, right?
Yeah.
The narrative is that people of color are incapable of anything, are just leeches on the society, deserve to be deported and just sent to anywhere else in the world, because we're not really sending people to their home countries also, right? So, and it's just, again, the whole MAGA movement, make America white again. It's really what they actually meant, right? Yeah, that's really what they mean. Yeah. So then when you go after elected officials and you go after representatives who also happen to be people of color, which again has no influence in terms of their abilities to run anything, because they're very capable. And again, if anything, we've seen, especially on the mayor level, a lot of these mayors of color who have been doing incredible things across the country.
Lower crime rates,
correct,
lower poverty rates.
Actually helping, doing something. So yeah, it fits the narrative that they've been trying to frame.
And oh, man, this again, sorry, I keep throwing us off, but I just want to say this. I've been reading a lot of the book called How to Be an Anti-Racist, right? And I'm not trying to say that anybody in the Democratic Party is trying to do this right now, but I'm just speaking from what I read in the book. What is it called? Lack of a better word, uplift suasion. It's the idea that if you act right and you get to position of power as a person of color, the white supremacists will eventually see you as people and respect you and things like that.
Right.
One other thing that I'm a little heartbroken about, and I think I've talked to you about this, is when I see people of color who are judges and cops and things like that, and thinking that because they're in their position, they are no longer people of color, that's it, they've reached a status that they're going to be respected and they're going to be admired and whatever. When I realize, oh, sweetie, you just like me. You just think you better because you a judge, but I promise you, if they wanted to come and arrest you, they could. And I'm seeing that. I'm sorry for people of color. I love that you're in these positions and that you're trying, but a lot of people take it that because they're in these positions, that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, the reason why and yes, and I agree with you. And yes, there are a lot of people that are like that. I think I've had slightly different experiences with judges because I know that you and I have had drastically different experiences, right?
Yeah.
And
I've seen it from the part of I'm behind the thing being yelled at by a judge.
Right. And I've seen it from the part of being a lawyer and having meeting judges in different types of scenarios. Yes, admittedly, I'm not meeting them going to court because I'm representing someone or because I'm, got in trouble for something. No, I've met judges at networking events and at different, affiliation events or something, right? But I've been fortunate enough to meet actually a good amount of people who actually are good and they're very, very kind and they're very, very decent. And they actually, in talking about the types of matters that they've worked on, are very intentional about giving back, are very intentional about looking out for people like us. And if anything, don't take crap from established whatever the hell who are trying to swing around their power. They're like, nah, dude, I grew up in the Bronx. Nah, dude, I know where I came from. And they never let that go, even though they've reached that level of success. So I do want to give flowers to the people that remember where the hell they came from and remember to actually give back, because it's not all judges or lawyers. There are a good amount of people that are out there. That being said, I've also met judges who are assholes. So yes, there are people that are like that. But
and it's not even about asshole. It's about believing that once you're in a certain position, that you are
better than
not even better, protected, or perhaps I am a person of this is horrible when OJ Simpson goes like, I'm not black, I'm OJ. You know what I mean? That's one of those things. It's like, oh, I'm not Latino, I'm a U.S. district judge.
You know what's crazy? I did not follow the OJ trial that hard back in the day.
Yeah.
And the first time I heard that line was in the Jay-Z song.
Well, that's where I got it from.
I'm not black, I'm OJ. Okay.
But it's not even about the trial. This was when he was playing football.
Oh.
And people like, how does it feel to be a black man dominating college sports like that? Because OJ came up a time where really a lot of black athletes were, and he goes, I'm not black, I'm OJ. So trying to remove his blackness from
you're still
a black man. And that's where I feel sometimes positions power, people in power go, hell, even when I started doing comedy, I was like, I'm not a Latino comedian. I'm a comedian that happens to be Latino.
Yeah.
And I was like, that nobody, I can't.
That was, was right. And but that was also part of the environment that you were in, right? And you've talked about that before, that when you really delved into the comedy world, there was a lot of toxicity in that. And there's actually, ironically, a lot of white supremacy and a lot of things that you weren't expecting going into it, right? So for as much as that wasn't great, obviously, maybe give yourself grace in that you were going into a new environment and you just didn't know.
But I came out of it.
Going back to this, because we have a lot to go through still. Stop playing with the camera.
No, I'm just taking the movement off. Keep going.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So Newark wasn't we talked, Newark wasn't the only time that representatives tried to visit detention centers and were denied access. So fortunately, 13 different Democrats have filed suit over being denied access to these ICE facilities for oversight. So that suit is still kind of in play. There was a press release that we're showing on screen back in July 30th. So we'll see. Just for the sake of time, I won't go through everyone that's involved, but we have representatives from the Congressional Hispanic Caucus to House Homeland Security Committee Subcommittee on Border Security. People got way too long titles. But yeah, we have there's a lot of people in play.
Just put people more worried about their titles and their positions than what's happening to them. Sorry,
but because someone wanted to segue, we're gonna move along.
No, but this is important that they are suing the Trump administration. But once again, hey, we're suing you because you're abusing our rights. He's gonna abuse your rights.
I
But
mean,
let's keep going.
but again, it's either that or would you want people to just not be trying?
You know what? Unfortunately, that is true. Just taking someone to court at this point is what you can do, because we're trying to show that this is how we want a system to be.
Right.
One where there's law and order, checks and balance, actual law and order, checks and balance. And yeah.
Yeah. So something else that happened in June was what happened, unfortunately, to Senator Alex Padilla. So just pulling it up here. So if you don't recall, back in June, Senator Alex Padilla, a Democrat from California, was forcibly removed, thrown to the ground, and handcuffed when he tried to question Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem at a press conference about essentially what ICE has been doing. And again, within his right, he is a Democratic representative from California. At this point, well, actually, no, just across the country, right? But specifically in California, we've all seen what's been happening at a dramatic pace compared to the rest of the country. I mean, now in DC things are happening, right? But it was just very telling. So understandably so, as a representative, he wanted to question and ask what's happening. So pulling up a article from NBC News showing footage from the incident when he was arrested. Let's just share that.
Tonight, chaotic moments during a press conference by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in LA.
To every single person that has been able to do this.
It all began when California's Democratic Senator Alex Padilla started interrupting her from the back of the room.
I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is, half a dozen violent criminals that
Padilla was forced out of the room by security and handcuffed in the hallway. Later, he spoke outside.
I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was not arrested. I was not detained.
We pressed Noem when she.
So let's just take a pause there. But again, this is
It's very sad to see him on the floor like that.
Yeah,
Especially
and
it looks like a grandpa kind of thing, like an older, like a dad. It's like, oh no.
But yeah, I mean, it was a moment that I think you and I talked about where I became very scared, because I'm like, this is an elected official that has been thrown to the ground, wildly disrespected in a violent manner. And again, his position in our government is literally an after. Like, they do not care.
No, because that's the thing that we're also like, oh, we don't know who you are. You're not identifying yourself. The guy was wearing a shirt that said U.S. Senate.
Well, not even that, but he literally, you hear it in the video, he said, I am Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary. That is the first thing he says. And again, to your point, and per usual, but with this administration, they initially lied about what happened, right? They initially were acting like he didn't, like you said, right? He didn't introduce himself or say who he was, but that's BS. Just sharing screen and sharing the X post from a Homeland Security. They said this post says supposedly Senator Padilla chose disrespectful political theater and interrupted a live press conference without identifying himself or having his Senate security pin on as he lunged toward Secretary Noem. Again, we just saw the video. He didn't lunge. He literally addressed himself.
The way history is rewritten by
and
the victors.
Not only that, but then they go on to, at Secret Service thought he was an attacker and officers acted appropriately. Once again, lies, right? Like, it's just BS.
Wow. Let me tell you something. Now that we've been doing all this, if they had put Senator Padilla in a chokehold and unalived him, I hate to say it, I feel like there would have been no repercussions.
Probably.
That DHS could have been like, we didn't know who this person was, and he lunged at Kristi Noem, and he was being violent. He never identified himself.
Well, that's the danger when you have an administration that constantly lies. Then lies are one of the prime ways that you can rewrite history and rewrite what happens, right? Like, that's what a lie is. You're just making stuff up. So and that's why so many people are like, record everything. Let's capture everything, all of this, because so long as we know, at least have evidence of what has happened, ideally, when the dust settles, there can be real repercussions for the people involved, because there is just way too much happening at this point. So something else that happened in June. June was like a wild month. This was also in June.
But that's what we sometimes hear about. Questions go, and is it worth reporting on this? It happened months ago. But what happens is that so much stuff has happened. So much is being thrown at you all the time that it's hard to follow the story or to know what do all the pieces mean. So that's why it's good to revisit this kind of stuff. Like, Look at what's been happening since January to the Democratic leadership.
Mhm.
We're talking about minority party, sure, but we're talking about more than just a party out of power. We're talking a party in the crosshairs of a Republican fascism takeover.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is already happening. And again, some people are trying, as we're seeing,
Yeah.
to stop the illegal actions of this other party, but it's not that easy, right? So again, in June, if you've already heard of the story, ideally you have, but looking at a CNN article, New York City comptroller and mayoral candidate at the time, Brad Lander, released after arrest by immigration officers inside court. So let's take a look at this video. This was in June of this year, where he was arrested in New York immigration court when he was trying to escort a migrant to his immigration court hearing. But officers tried to arrest the migrant. Again, how they've been doing regularly this year, unfortunately, on no basis. And Brad Lander, who is, again, New York City comptroller, tried to intervene, and you can hear him question what's happening. So let's just play this clip.
This is the moment federal officers arrested New York City comptroller and Democratic mayoral candidate Brad Lander inside a Manhattan immigration court while he was trying to escort a migrant who officers apparently were attempting to arrest.
Where is it? Where is the warrant? I would like to see the warrant. I'd like to see the warrant. You don't have authority to arrest U.S. citizens. You don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens.
I'll pause there because that point is also wild important.
Mm-hmm.
When we look into like what ICE is supposed to be doing, DHS and their respective jurisdictions, he's right. Why are you arresting a U.S. citizen? And for all the U.S. citizens listening, this is why everyone's sounding alarms. This is why people have been sounding alarms this entire year, since last year, since whenever Trump came into play. The concept of due process is wild important for all of us because since they're currently, I don't know, due process is kind of shaky in terms of this administration and our representatives. This is what happens when there's no due process, right? You have an elected official who is a U.S. citizen who is literally telling ICE officials and ICE, officers, hey, you actually can't do this.
Yeah.
And he's 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why police officers are not listening to an elected official of the U.S. government is because this administration has emboldened them to not listen to them. You don't have to. That's
not listen to Democrats.
Not listen to Democrats, right? Like you don't have to. That's
specifically.
And as more and more time goes on, and less repercussions are happening for all of this, this is just going to get worse, as we've seen. And candidly, I don't know. Maybe they're just going to be killing more people because they've already murdered someone. They already politically assassinated someone.
Yeah.
And what has happened? One person was charged for it because that was the person that did it. But the bigger party, the bigger structure that ultimately caused a lot of this. There's no repercussions for that.
It's actually a perfect point. Also, what's happening in the country at all. A Trump supporter kills democratically elected leaders and, that guy killed people and a dog and hurt other people. Okay, one immigrant steals a candy bar somewhere. Well, look at all immigrants. They're all thieves. We should first of all get rid of immigrants and then see what we can do about candy bars. It's like, wow. Honestly, again, going back to I am tired of this white supremacy that we live under. I am exhausted by it every day, and the hypocrisy that it is that these white violent men can go out day after day, hurt, kill, steal from people, and nothing changes. But a Latino, a Black, an Asian person does anything anywhere, all laws, all hell has to come down on us.
But again, this is what we're trying to do, right? Just flag it all for people and see whether or not people agree, because at this point so going on to August, the month that we're in, you would think, oh, there's so much that has happened. Yeah, it continues to get worse. So most recently, I think a lot of us saw Nicole Collier, representative in Texas. She refused. Well, sorry, before we even get to that, let me take a step back in terms of how we got here, right? So at this point, as most people are likely aware, Texas, along with a lot of other red states, are focused on redistricting their maps, right? To change how every individual vote is counted as or counted and represented in the respective state, right? So they redistrict these maps and change essentially how votes are counted depending on who's where. So Texas, as we already know, unfortunately already did that. But before, Texas Democrats were trying to stop it, right? Realistically, they couldn't ever ultimately stop it because they, again, didn't have the numbers. But a couple of weeks ago, over 50 Texas Democrats left the state for 2 weeks, but ultimately had to come back, right, at some point, since they didn't have the numbers and they couldn't avoid the vote anyways. But what they did do during this time that a lot of people maybe not realized is that they brought attention to what Texas was doing, right? Because realistically, this vote could have happened and it could have happened quickly. And given everything that's happening in this country and everything we talk about, it could have been lost in the sauce, as we say, and just forgotten about. And the real impact of it could have been glossed over. So Texas Democrats did what they wanted to, did what they should have done, right? Brought attention to it and also help their fellow Democratic state of California to have time to strategize and figure out what the game plan is, right? So California, as we know now, is in play to put up for a vote in November. Again, Californians, go out and vote, please, to see if Californians favor redistricting as well,
map,
to try to counterbalance what's happening in Texas. So going back to Representative Nicole Collier, after the Texas Democrats came back, unfortunately, they were all told that they had to sign a basically permission slip to leave the Capitol that day.
It literally looked like the kind that you got sent home so you can go to the Natural History Museum.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So that Monday, Republican House Speaker Dustin Burrows literally ordered them to sign a permission slip saying that they will be able to leave the Capitol floor at the Texas Capitol floor at the time, and under the custody of Texas law enforcement. So they pretty much had to have a chaperone follow them along for 2 days until they had to return on Wednesday. And supposedly Republicans said this was to ensure that they come back. But again, they are free to do whatever the hell
They even don't have to show up.
Correct.
Legally,
they
don't have to show up.
They don't have to.
You again, these Republicans are thugs, and they're forcing these Democrats to do their will. And Democrats are like, I'll sign your permission slip. Most of them signed the permission slip.
All of them signed the permission slip. Except Nicole.
Except Nicole.
Or Representative
a black
Collier.
woman.
Correct.
Nicole Collier, a black woman, did not sign the permission slip, and she was held hostage.
Yeah. So she basically wasn't allowed to leave until she signed. So she refused to sign on principle because she said herself she's not a child, and she's 100% right. She doesn't have to sign a damn permission slip to be able to leave. And what I don't know if people realize is what happened to her is a crime. It's called false imprisonment. Reading from Cornell Law School, the definition of false imprisonment occurs when one person intentionally restrains another in a way that confines the individual within a bounded area without consent or legal authority. It is recognized both as a crime and an intentional tort. So, again, there is no question on what happened to Nicole Collier was a crime.
It was a crime.
She was legally allowed to technically leave, and she wasn't able to. So then, by default, this is false imprisonment.
They held her there for 2 days. And threatened her with felony for just talking to other Democratic leaders.
Yeah. Let me see if I have so I have that here. You beat me to the punch.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. We're also just in for the sake of time, I won't play it. But what also happened is when she tried to use the restroom, and essentially in the video, again, you can feel free to look it up. But in the video, she was talking to, I believe it
Gavin
was
Newsom,
Gavin Newsom,
Cory Booker, and the head of some DNC chair or something.
Yeah, so she was talking to DNC leaders pretty much, right? Just about what's happening. She's literally been kidnapped. She's been restrained there. And again, not illegal to have a conversation. Yet while she was in, I think a restroom or some kind of room, someone comes in and tells her that she can't be on the phone out of nowhere, or she's going to be hit with a felony, which again is false because she's not committing a felony. It's all fear mongering. It's all meant to strong arm the Democratic Party into the whims of the Republican Party. And that's why another reason why I thought this episode would be really important, because it is to give flowers to the people that are trying. It's very frustrating to hear so many people being like, Democrats aren't doing anything. The total Democratic Party isn't, but there's people in it that are.
And especially people of color, Democrats of color are fucking working overtime to try and get us some way away from fascism and towards something that looks more like a party for people. But the old established Democrats are the old white farts that refuse to move away from, well, we're center right, so center left. So you're more towards the right than you are with us. And that's why Trump, again, is imprisoning black leaders, is hitting black leaders with lawsuits, is the Republicans are keeping black leaders falsely imprisoned. It is the fact that Democrats aren't coming out and defending their black leaders in full force, or supporting
Literally
people
all,
like
yeah.
Zohran Mamdani full force,
Mhm.
goes to show you how, again, we as people of color are trying to save things, and the biggest fucking enemy to like people of color's progress is liberals and fascists. Do you know what I mean? Those people, like the
Well,
Democrat.
explain why liberals are, to the extent that you know, a short
Well,
explanation.
white liberals tend to be people who kind of appreciate the status quo and believe that it should be small incremental changes within the system that would allow us to get ultimately to our goal.
Mhm.
So they keep telling people of color, hey, time
As
will
people
get you
keep
your
getting
thing.
killed and stuff, but yeah.
Exactly. I
Mhm.
mean, you saw over 100 years, people, especially black people, fought for voting rights, equality, all that stuff, as far as we can get it. And within 6 months, Trump has been able to obliterate all that. So I don't want to hear from liberals, time, patience. Let's try and bring everybody together. Okay, these guys obliterated all of our movements in 6 months. So if you come back into power, do we have to 100 years of work again to get back to where we were?
Mhm.
Is that what the fuck we're gonna go towards? Or are we gonna bring in people like Jasmine Crockett and like Zohran Mamdani and people who just want to be like, let's get to where we said we want to be
Right,
a
let's
long
do
time ago.
something
Let's
about
do
it.
something.
Yeah.
No, Democrats are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Even if Trump's gone, we have to look at the things he did, and we have to slowly roll back. And maybe some of the things he does, I promise you, they'll even keep in place.
I mean, maybe. But
Yeah.
again, if it's the wrong Democratic representatives that we have in office, which again, please look at how people are voting, and that will tell you if they actually align
Yeah.
with what your vision is. Because people lie, politicians lie. We all know that. That's fine. So really all
Not
we have.
fine. You were saying they should get sued for that.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's a whole separate conversation.
Yeah.
It's not being sued. I think there should be laws against politicians lying explicitly. I think
Explicitly.
it's that's
National security, safety.
that
Hey,
isn't
we can.
it's a national security risk. I don't understand why it's
Oh
ever been
wow,
allowed.
wow. Yeah, you're right. You're
These
right.
are ultimately the decision makers of this country. Why is it allowed that they can lie? And not only during their political like campaign, but also once they are actually in office.
yeah.
And then they can have speeches like the State of the Union address, and then be blatantly lying about, oh, there's no climate crisis, oh,
That's what I
migrants
was
are
gonna say.
da-da-da, oh,
Yeah.
da-da-da, whatever.
It's a
And
national
that's
threat.
why it's not only a national threat, it's a global threat, because
Mhm.
we can't act like we just live in a silo. No, the US is right now causing so much damage across the world. And I think we all know that. And obviously, we're in the fire right now. So I get that there's other priorities for sure. But yeah, in my opinion, there should be blatant laws that politicians, at bare minimum, once they are in office, you cannot lie about the state of what's going on. You are representatives. Now, I know the counter argument to that is you don't want to cause a chaos, right? You don't want to alarm people. Fine. If you can't disclose certain things, say you can't disclose certain things. Don't blatantly lie.
Hold up a second. Now that's hypocrisy to say like, oh, you can't tell the truth, or you
That's
can't
not
do that.
hypocrisy.
No. Let me finish it. Let me finish my thought. To say, oh, you can't tell the truth or whatever because it could cause chaos. Lying is causing chaos. This is causing chaos. Don't tell me, oh, you can't tell people the truth because they'll misbehave. You're lying. Sending the army to the streets. You're causing chaos. You're causing people to misbehave.
I hear you, but there's things that the CIA knows, that the FBI knows, that da-da-da knows, that like, sure, maybe we can find out and be totally fine, but there's people in this country that we can agree that are not mentally capable of getting this information and chilling the fuck out. That just doesn't exist. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the ridiculous lies that are happening now. Yes, those should not exist. Not only that, people should be blatantly penalized for everything that's happening now. And hopefully when the dust settles, that happens. My point is different. My point is that when you say climate crisis does not exist, that is a blatant lie that has immense domino
I get
effects.
what you're saying.
That in and of itself should be a crime.
Mhm.
Because there's so much damage just from that one statement. So why is it not a crime? But that's a whole other
conversation.
Going back, because there's still more stuff that's happened to Democrats, right? So not well, actually a couple of them are leaders in their own right? But after Nicole Collier was kidnapped and not allowed to leave, luckily there was a lot of protesters that showed up in her defense in Texas. And these four women specifically were arrested. They actually were arrested once they refused to leave after the Capitol building closed. And they were told, hey, you're not allowed to be here. You're not allowed to be protesting. And sure, in the regular world where things that aren't blowing up, that might be trespassing. Yeah, right? Our federal building is closed. You need to leave. Cool. But when police are holding someone captive who is an elected official and that is illegal. And as we saw, at a bare minimum, false imprisonment. Yeah, I think it's fine if some protesters are there letting you know, hey, this is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone that's like, oh, but they were there, shut the hell up.
Yeah.
And like, that's not the point. It's the context.
Mm-hmm.
In the clearly, y'all aren't lawyers, right? Because we don't look at things siloed. It's the context of what's happening, right? That tells you whether or not something is actually illegal.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, sure, it's not safe if I shoot you in the face, but if you're about to shoot me in the face, then that might be self-defense, admittedly, depending on what state you're in. But like, that may or may not be self-defense, right? So like, context matters.
Yeah.
People, right? So fortunately, they were all ultimately released. Unfortunately, they can't go to the Texas Capitol for I think about a year. But just to give them the flowers, this was Angel Carol Graves. She's the president of the Black Austin Democrats. Jill Van Voorhees, apologies, president of Westlake Eanes Democrats. Jessica Cohen, the president of the Stonewall Democrats of Austin and vice chair of the Texas Democratic Party LGBTQ caucus, and activist Megan Sheehan, but I also saw some articles saying Megan Chopra, and then I saw her Instagram is Megan Thuy.
Okay.
So apologies, Megan, but you got my names.
AKA the realist.
But what was interesting about looking this up though was that it was hard to find information about their arrest. It was actually I saw it on social media when everything was happening with Representative Collier, but it was incredibly hard to find information about that. But I knew that it happened, right? So just again, another note about access to information or the lack thereof.
I'm not sure if you have this video, but I do want to give shout out to all those women who were there because Megan did speak about this afterwards. That a lot of news stations, specifically one online publication, were using their work and their videos acting like they were the ones that were there, and that a lot of publications tend to use activists. Look, I have gone to a lot of marches. I have worked with a lot of organizations, and I'm going to tell you this: most people in leadership are women, specifically women of color, specifically like women who are intersectionality, either queer or Black women or Latinas or whatever,
from some other minority.
Exactly. So these are usually the leaders of these organizations that I've come across who have asked me to work with them and things like that. And they are the faces that are seen the least. So let's not forget, like we've seen with Collier, like we've seen with those 4 women, like we're seeing with Jasmine Crockett, like we're seeing it's women of color, women of color, and then like men of color, like behind that. But know that a lot of these things are led by women of color who do not get the respect and the thank you that they ever deserve. They never get it.
Absolutely. Which again is the benefit of having social media, because fortunately they're able to at least advocate for themselves and share what's actually happening, right? And ideally they get enough momentum to give credit where credit is due. And they were incredible along with a lot of the other protesters that were there. But props to Representative Collier as well for holding strong and staying in the Capitol for, what was it, 3 days? Literally sleeping there?
3 days, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Thank you.
So moving on, there's still more. So in case you haven't heard, Lisa Cook, who I believe is now a former member of the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors, is suing the Trump administration over her firing, right? So fortunately not as violent, compared to other things that have happened, but still very indicative of the times. So I won't share a lot of the other things just for the sake of time, but I'll just quickly summarize. So she and other members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors were fired 10 days ago. And people are saying this is part of Trump's plan to take over the central bank, which is what the Federal Reserve is the U.S. central bank, to lower interest rates, because that's something that he's been wanting to do. She is suing the Trump administration over the firing, claiming that it wasn't for legitimate reasons, right? This is for political gain. And it is very telling when you look at what the Federal Reserve is. So again, like I said, it's a central bank and it's made up of a couple of different divisions, but one of the more important ones is the Board of Governors, because they essentially oversee the activity of the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve has 5 different functions. It conducts the nation's monetary policy, promotes financial system stability, more importantly, supervises and regulates financial institutions, fosters payment and settlement system safety and efficiency, and promotes consumer protection and community development. The last point of consumer protection and also of supervising our financial institutions, i.e. our banks, and essentially how money is flowing in this country. That's everything that the Board of Governors oversees of the Federal Reserve. So to fire someone from the board, several people from the Board of Governors that don't align with your ideologies is very telling. Now, the administration is claiming that they fired her because she was accused of mortgage fraud tied to purchase of 2 homes back in 2021.
Yeah, that she got a first-time home buyer mortgage when she wasn't a first-time home buyer or something like that.
Right. But she's actually she's never been charged with a crime.
Right.
So
right.
if that were true, then where's the charges? But sure. And again, this was before she even joined the Federal Reserve. This was back in 2021, so she wasn't even involved in it. So
Of course.
because of the magnitude of this case, because ultimately, just for context, again, context is important. Depending on how this is ruled, if the court rules in favor of the administration, then essentially this gives the Trump administration carte blanche to just get rid of people for any reason, right? This is setting precedent, and that's what
Yeah.
people need to also understand about these different court cases. That one decision can potentially domino into the rest of the history of that subject matter under the law, right? Because people will then refer back to certain cases that were ruled in favor of this administration and be like, oh, but the facts in this case are very similar, so let's do the same here. And that's how, again, now I'm going down the rabbit hole of legal stuff, but that's how court cases work, court precedent works. You refer back to a case that's very similar in the fact pattern to your case and be like, oh, well, since that's similar, the court should rule the same. And if it happens to be within the same jurisdiction, then odds are you're going to win that case too. So if later on he then just starts firing people left and right from all these different, what's supposed to be independent agencies in the way that the Federal Reserve is, it's supposed to be nonpartisan and again, meant to just oversee the money and make sure things are being legit. If you allow this to happen, then you're setting precedent for him to just start wiping clean different agencies and put in different loyalists.
Yeah.
And that's the fear. So the expectation is that this case is probably going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. And as we've seen, the Supreme Court, unfortunately, has a conservative majority.
Ain't our buddy.
Again, ladies, I see you in the Supreme Court, not to call you ladies, but it's weird times right now. So, lady justices, I see you trying to hold down the fort and appreciate you.
A few of them.
A few of them.
lady
Yeah, not all of
justices.
them.
Yeah,
A few of them.
Few lady justices.
Even though she every so often come
Every
to
once in
bull,
a
like
while.
randomly,
Yeah.
Get a heart.
I know we got to wrap up soon here. Sorry. But real quick, this is where if a Democrat does not come in to office in 2028 and use all these things that Trump has done to push the other way, this is where it won't happen. But this is where, you know how Trump right now is purging anyone who does not have his ideology? We need to do the same thing with white supremacy. We need to do the same with racism. We need to go through the Federal Reserve and being like, are your policies anti-racist? Are they actually helping out people of color? Or are you just helping out more white people? Well, no, then fuck you, you're out.
Yeah.
Oh, are you a judge that is constantly sending black and brown people to jail and not, you know what? You're fucking out. Like that's how you get rid of this structure that allows it to happen again. Okay. This is how you get rid of this is when Nazism fell in Germany, the United States imported Nazis and made them scientists and made them business leaders and allowed that ideology to seep back through business and science and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I will preface all of that with I think that you mean to look into the activity of everybody, right? And like see how they're implementing their practices, right? For example, with judges, if they're just throwing like it's actually confirming that, hey, did those people actually deserve that or not?
Like for example, like the woman who's coming back, who's trying to end gay marriage, Kim Davis, when gay marriage was first, she refused to sign marriage licenses to gay couple. That right there should have been like, Kim and anybody like Kim who has a problem, you can leave right the fuck now.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to
but you let those people simmer in government for 20 years with that hatred until they come back and destroy everything that we've progressed to.
Right, but again, it goes back to what we've been talking about. It is the I guess the makeup of the Democratic Party. It is on voters to actually look at who's in play and look at who will actually make systemic change and actually make real policy change and advocate for the things that we're trying to advocate for. And again, we've talked about this. We're of different mindsets in terms of process, but we ultimately have the same goal, right? And it is policy change, and it is a structure that benefits everybody, not just
purging these ideologies out.
Correct, but there has to be a way to do it, and I agree. I think part of it is electing the right people. I think part of it is everyone being more involved in politics and being aware of what's actually going on and being educated in what's actually happening. But yeah, so the last point that I was going to bring up is that you thought that was it. That wasn't it. I'll just quickly bring up, the Justice Department recently announced investigations to Senator Adam Schiff, the Democrat in California, and New York Attorney General Letitia James. They each oversaw high-profile investigations of Trump after his first term. The FBI also recently searched the home of former Trump advisor turned critic John Bolton. the DOJ has reportedly opened criminal investigations into John Brennan and James Comey, the CIA director and FBI director, who both served in Trump's first administration. And again, that's the expectation is that there may be more retaliation coming from this administration because Trump's director of national intelligence has recently accused Barack Obama and his officials of a quote years-long coup against the current president.
Yeah.
So that's just a quick little summary. All of that text came from the Rolling Stone article we were looking at earlier about Congresswoman McIver. But yeah, it's very clear that this administration is very retaliatory, very just focused on their own wants and needs, really shouldn't be in government at all because that's not how government functions. And my hope is that people are paying more and more attention, trying to protect themselves as well as they can, know your rights as much as you can, save tangible versions of your of rights, like your information and all that. Even I know it sounds silly.
Print them out.
Have a copy saved locally of the Constitution, because more and more, as we've seen just from this episode, it's becoming more difficult to find information, and history is, at least they're trying to rewrite history in the way that they always are, right? So please keep your eyes open and please take care of yourselves.
And keep a journal.
Yeah.
I'll be real with you. Looking back at my journal and seeing the way I write news stories in my journal that I write every day, I'm like, oh wow, this is, I don't know, my mind was clear as things was happening, and they try to put this fog in your brain, and now you're like, wait, what happened? But yeah, so that's basically what we wanted to show you guys, is the constant evolution of violence against the opposition to Trump, to white supremacy, to their ideology, you know, because it is right now mostly targeting Democrats, Democratic leaders, Democratic ideologies in all form of government. But it is now going after any kind of dissenters. I mean, you said at the end, we glossed over it, but they're going after John Bolton's house because he's a critic now of Trump and what he does. So, you know, it's the Democratic Party needs to like figure out a way to be much stronger and put a line in the sand that says, if you do it, like, you know what I mean? We've had so many lines, don't cross this. And he goes, okay, don't cross this. Okay, don't cross this. It's like, we need to really figure out a way, not just through Supreme Courts and things like that, but to actually get back to a place where it's like, hey, you are not allowed to physically hurt us like this. You're not allowed to take away our power for oversight. You are not allowed to do this, point blank, period.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we get out of here, like a host?
Pay attention to stuff. Realize that there are people that are trying. Please give flowers to people and don't get upset at them when you're like, oh, you're not doing enough. Recognize the effort that people actually are trying to make, to not dissuade the few people that are actually making efforts here to keep doing so. Recognize how people are voting and realize that that's what actually matters, not the nice things they say when they're on a podium. And keep yourselves informed with real accurate information.
I think that's the best thing anybody can do. And yeah, like I said, just to the Democratic Party,
step up.
You step up and protect yourself.
Either step up or get the hell out the way.
Yeah, actually,
because actually, and to Jasmine Crockett, feel you, boo, because that's like that's literally what she said, right? Like she was just like, either step up or get out the way, or like AOC said, we need brawlers, like and not in a physical. We're gonna actually fight in the streets or anything stupid. No, she means obviously metaphorically that you're actually gonna stand up against this crap. You're actually gonna say something about this. You're actually gonna do something about it, because again, we all keep talking about the same handful of Democratic representatives that are actually doing something about it, but there are so many different Democratic representatives that no one even mentions. That hey, maybe look into whether or not they've actually done anything in your area, because odds are they maybe haven't, and just because they're a Democrat doesn't actually mean that they're even default a good person. Don't follow blindly for the Democratic Party. Follow people, that representatives that maybe are within that party but actually stand up for real values.
There's a lot of people who their inactivity is violent,
right?
Their lack of supporting candidates like Zoran, or backing people like Jasmine, or when Nicole Collier, Democrats around the country
should have shown up
and be like, we're getting her out of there.
Well, I mean, admittedly, and I think we talked about this, they can't do that, right? Because they can't abandon, necessarily they can't potentially abandon their post, but whoever whoever was just like, oh, there's nothing really happening at my spot, or my team can handle whatever, this is a major thing. And that's what it is, right? Showing support. And I'll like finish with this just because of time. If you think back to Zelensky, the last time he came to the US, and you saw how other European leaders came out to support him, and if anything, showed up to the White House first before he even got there to literally lay the groundwork of like, you're not messing with him again. why are Democrats not doing this? Like, and again, I'm not speaking to the ones that we talk about all the time. I'm speaking to everyone else, every other Democratic representative. Why are you not doing this? And everyone that's listening, maybe call them up and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Maybe your
Yeah.
question is literally that. What are you doing to
Yeah.
stand up again? And ask for real, tangible examples, not nice words that ultimately don't necessarily mean much. What is a tangible example? Ask your representative, what is a tangible example of how you're standing up against this administration and supporting other Democratic leaders that are out at the forefront trying to stand up to them? Ask that question.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah. And, you know, don't throw your constituents under the bus. Don't say, oh, we lost this election because there were too many trans issues or too many Gaza issues, too many this or that. No, you lost because you didn't give us anything. You told us that you're in opposition to Trump, but we wanted actual change. We didn't want Trump, but we wanted promises from you of actual change. And a lot of them was like, no, status quo all day, baby. And that's what we don't want. We want actual policies to help out people. So Democrat needs to learn that before it's too late. Hey, that's our episode. Please, as always, you know, I'm going to say this real quick. There's a lot of discourse right now about, you know, content creators and how they make their money. And we want to make our money through everyday donations like you. We want to be able to continue bringing you this work, continue bringing these stories and be funded by the people. So please, if you have any chance that you can go on Substack and support our work, become a paid subscriber, we really appreciate that so we can continue bringing you this kind of information. And please follow us on TikTok, follow us on, you know, Instagram. Help support this work so we can continue bringing this work just between us. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? With no middleman between. We want to stay as independent as possible. So please support us any way you can.
Yep. Thank you for listening, everyone. And again, stay safe.
Thank you so much. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.